Howdy, folks. Elk Rex here. Welcome to the first installment of Thoughts from the Inner Sphere. As we try to do a campaign, set up a campaign, and looking at mechs, if you are a mercenary commander for, let's say, you're doing a narrative gaming scenarios with your friends. And the first one we're going to look at is the Locust. Locust 1V. It's the most common scout mech you probably will see out there. It's basically an 8-12 moving mech. Very little armor, carries a medium laser and a couple machine guns. And the whole purpose of this mech is scouting, 100% scouting. This is not a mech you use to go out and go toe-to-toe with anything. You don't want it to get shot at if necessary. Occasionally you're going to have somebody who's going to take a pop shot at some of your mechs, but that's just the way the game works. But the whole purpose of this mech is to run around very fast, go from cover to cover, and if you're playing a narrative game, its purpose is purely scouting. It's like find where the enemy is, scout out positions, find hidden enemies as it moves through the area, and relay that back to your command and control. I was in the cavalry in the army, and running around on tanks and APCs, and we would send out our APCs, like your Bradleys or M113s, and they would go out there and dismount, look for the enemy, find positions, and relay it back. And I was started off as a tank commander, and my job was Overwatch. So the job of the scouts was to find the enemy. If they got any trouble, you call in the heavies, which would be your tanks. In this case, it would be tanks or heavy medium Battlemechs, come in and fix the enemy in place and destroy them. And the scouts would break off and harass from the edges or just totally disengage, because their job is done. Now their job is to go out and cover the flanks and go and find other enemies for the follow-on forces to fix and destroy. And the whole purpose of a Locust is basically the same thing. Find your enemy, fixate it, call in follow-in forces, or fall back and try to draw in your opponent and follow you. As I say, you're running a large map, or you're using hex maps and you're using a rolling map system or something like that, and you're falling back and you're trying to draw them back to your follow-on forces to do the heavy work for you. And you don't want your scouts getting engaged into a heavy fight. The only time you're ever going to see a scout get engaged into a heavy fight is they're facing other scouts, and then you've got scouting forces taking pot shots at each other. And typically scouts don't have heavy weapons on them. In this case of the Locust, it's got machine guns and a medium laser. This thing is going to take forever to whittle down another scout, while an assault mech could go in there and unload, with some heavy weapons and hit with one or two, and a scout's like, oh my gosh, all my armor's gone. See, that's the whole thing. So you could go into an anti-scouting mode, but you would prefer to leave the anti-scouting to your medium mechs, which are a little faster, or the light mechs that are in the upper range, like your 30-35 tonners. They have a little more armor. Their job is they're not as fast, but they can get in and hammer your opponent, and they have the anti-scouting role, not as a scout themselves. They can fill that void, but they're more or less working in towards the anti-scouting role. Now, there's a couple variants moving on of Locust. You're going to be looking at the 1V is your standard with the medium laser and 2 machine guns. Then they come out with the 1S, which scrapes off even more armor and carries 2 SRM packs as well as more ammunition for the machine gun, which I don't know why you would need more ammunition, but well, I guess that would be for your SRMs if you had more ammunition. So I don't know why you would want to go that route with that one. The only time I usually use SRM2s is I like SRM2s for a specific role. And I could see if you did that, I would put Infernals on them. Because nothing like being on the edge of the battlefield and you're watching these big behemoths, these heavies and assault mechs fighting it out, and you got players out there that love to run hot. This is one game where you had a guy had an assault mech, 100 ton assault mech. He was out there just hammering away at everybody. Oh, I'm doing all kinds of damage, and he's bragging about it. And I ran my scout over there, and I was like, oh really? It's like, what's your heat? He's like, oh, I'm running around 20. Oh, guess what? I hit him with Infernos, cooked him, set him up on the next scale, so he ended up having to roll on the heat scale for exploding his ammo, and I blew up without doing no damage to him, just hit him with Infernos, 100-ton mech, because he decided he wanted to run hot and decide, hey, heat management doesn't mean anything, I'll just manage it after I shut down. Well, he shut down completely in little bits. So I could see that version if I had 2 tons of ammo, maybe 1 ton of Infernos and 1 ton standard SRMs. But I don't know if that would be something I would want to do, especially with that version. Now you got the 1M, which reduces its armor and carries 2 LRM 5 packs and 24 rounds of ammunition, and the medium laser. I could see that is a kind of a scout support mech, a harasser. You know, you're running along, it's like, all right, I see somebody, you're doing your scouting roll, all right, I found him. Then as I'm disengaging, I can turn around and go all out, so I'm getting the most I can out of my movement modifier so people can't hit me as well. So they're looking at, it's like, oh gee, I need not 11s or 12s or maybe 13s to hit this locust that's just flying around. Or I can hit this other one that's over here and I need 10s. He may go with the guy that's 10. You got a better odds of hitting him. But this locust has these 2 LRM packs, and you're just harassing. Typically you're going to roll 3 points of damage if you hit. That's plinking. But it can get really annoying if you're hitting a medium mech or a heavy mech, and it's constant 3 points of damage. You blank, 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 hitting it here and there, and whittling them down while you're just, a person can get fixated, and it's like, all right, I'm going to get rid of this guy, and they keep charging after it, and they fall into the ambush. I can see that possible. Then there's the 1E, the variant, which reduces his armor and carries 2 arm-mounted medium lasers as well as 2 small lasers. So basically, you're cutting off 2 tons of, for the machine guns, there's your 2 medium lasers, then you cut more armor for 2 more small lasers, that's another ton. I'm kind of like the idea in a way, which would come up to customization here. And there's some firepower there. It rolls into, a mech like that is gone into the anti-light scout mode, but it will have a problem with, it's got 3 medium lasers and 2 small lasers, then it starts running into a problem. If it gets into a running gunfight, you start having a heat problem. Then you're going to have to shut some off to cool off. If you're one of those players that love to just hammer and hammer and hammer. And then you're slowing down. When you slow down, guess what? You die. The whole purpose of this mech is to move faster. Now, if I was going to do a customization with this thing, I would cut the 2 machine guns and its ammo, there's 2 tons, and flip around and have a medium laser in each arm, and then the one in the center torso with the chin mounted medium laser. So that's 3 medium lasers. Basically, you're looking at 9 heat. If you're in a running gunfight, you can do up to 15 points of damage, because 15 points of damage on a light mech like this is they're going to feel it. 5 points damage here and there. There's not too many places on a mech like this that will be able to handle 5-10 points of damage very long. And it's going to be hitting into the internal structure real quick. So that would be something I'd be more inclined to think of as a better option than the E version. You take the E version, but don't put on those 2 medium lasers and retain your extra armor that this thing has little of to begin with, and they're not heating up as much. So I think that's a better option to go with. So you're taking a variant that they already have and slightly changing it, not degrading the armor as much. That makes it a pretty decent mech in its scouting role. And so you're only at 9 heat there, and when you're running, you're going to go up to 11. So you can have a couple turns, 3 turns, not really having too much effect on a mech, and then you go 2 turns or a turn, only firing 2 medium lasers. Let's say you got 2 in the arms, you fire the 2 in the arms, and then you cool off. It's like you can do that. 2 turns firing everything, 1 turn only firing 2. 2 turns, you see what I mean? You heat up a little bit, and then you cool back off. And I think that's would be a better option for these if you don't want to go with the standard style 1V version of the Locust. Well, I hope this kind of idea, this is what you're going to be looking at here in the future with different ideas. This is the Locust, and hope that you commanders out there, if you have any questions, just put them down in the comments below, and we'll have a discussion, and we'll just talk with you later. This is Hulk Rex out.